Luffy's pirate tip of the day. Just shove that food in your mouth. Presentation doesn't matter.
Sanji's pirate tip of the day. Shut your damn mouth, Luffy! We've got 7 crew members here to have an adventure. Cross the Grand Line with you.
Woohoo!
We'll cross the Grand Line and have a grand time as we make our dreams come true.
Yeah.
We'll ride the knock-up stream to achieve our dreams. Together we watch season 3.
Yeah! Ba-da-ba-bow, start the show. Hello, fellow adventurers of the White Sea. Welcome to episode 53 of King of the What Now. We are a podcast that discusses the anime One Piece, starting from the very beginning. I'm your host, Joel. I'm a longtime fan, and I am your dial engineer, providing all sorts of commodities for your everyday life.
Hi, I'm the co-host. I am Curtis, One Piece novice, and I am a citizen of Skypeia, but without the antenna. Oh my god, the horror!
And I'm Kat. I'm the ghost on the podcast, and I am a speedy fast lobster zipping you away. Snip, snip.
Sent personally by God.
God's personal lobster. That's incredible.
What a great Twitter handle. One of us should use that. All right. We just finished watching 5 episodes of the anime. We started with episode 153 and made it all the way through episode 157. This is the official start of the Skypeia arc. The Straw Hats went up to the White Sea, then they went up to the White Sea, and then some bad stuff happened. Is basically it. If you're watching along at home, it ended with the Going Merry being taken away, and Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji, I want to say Chopper, that's not right, being told that they have to face the Trial of the Grand Priests, I think is their official title. Curtis is here to provide you with a slightly longer summary than that, but not a summary that takes as long as watching all 5 of the episodes.
A word you might use to describe the type of summary he will give is...
a speedy, fast, to-the-point review, but not so to the point that...
One word, succinct. What you came up with was the opposite of succinct. Too many words.
I was incorrect. Okay, perfect.
Way to demonstrate a non-succinct
Yeah, lead by
sentence.
an example. Go on.
Yes. Okay. So we enter Skypeia, God's land. Wait, where did we start at?
We technically started with them riding the knock-up stream. I think the very first scene we saw was Usopp deciding he was going to go for a swim.
I forgot about that. Man, okay, let's back up. We're started further back than I thought. Okay. We enter...
a barrel, Luffy punches out, you meet a kid named Kobe.
There's a guy named Oda, and he starts in a room, and he's pitching this idea to a bunch of other people. Okay, so we go up the knock-up stream, and we make it to this cloud ocean. The Straw Hats are briefly attacked by a man with a bazooka, but they are saved by a knight flying on the back of a bird/horse.
I really wish that you had said, and this wouldn't be an accurate summary, but I really wish that you had said, they were attacked by a man with a bazooka, and were saved by a different man with a different bazooka. But yes,
that would have been inaccurate, because he was a different man, but he did not have a different bazooka. He also did not have the same bazooka.
Yeah.
No bazookas were had by the man with the horse bird.
Whose name was Gonfall, just really quick.
Okay.
And then...
yes, and then Usopp briefly tried to swim through the clouds. He swam through the bottom. He fell out because they're clouds and there's a sky beneath it. And they had to save him, and so they saved him. And then they proceeded to go towards a gate that they found. It was Heaven's Gate. And there they met a woman named Amazon who said they could pass. They just needed to pay 1 billion
X-tolls. I know the
each.
currency is X-toll. I couldn't remember how much they had to pay.
Yeah. Maybe it was more than 1 billion then. I don't remember. They had to pay a lot each. They didn't have any X-tolls, and she said, okay, that's all right. You can keep going. That doesn't matter.
There will be no consequences for this. I promise.
Yep. So they go forward, and a lobster picks them up and carries them up this waterfall.
The express lobster.
Yes. So they go up, and the waterfall, it's not really a waterfall. It's like it's like a stream through the sky, and it spirals upwards. And they go up, and they make it to Skypeia. It's like God's Land, or
I believe God's Land is how they finish the sentence.
There, they find an island. They get off at the beach, and they meet two people whose names I've already forgotten.
Conus is the one that we care about. The other one is Conus's dad.
Okay.
He has a name. I think it's like Uppaguy or something.
Yeah, and they also have this cute little fox.
Sue.
We also learn about dials at this point because the dad shows up on a dial-powered, basically, jet ski. Which Nami proves to be very good at riding. Luffy cannot ride it. He crashes it immediately. Nami goes off and disappears for a bit while the crew is here talking with the two people and their pet fox, who does not talk but just sits there. Nami ends up at this other island, which we find out is the Upper Yard. This is the sacred land that you're not supposed to go to. There, she witnesses someone else who's also at the Upper Yard looking for treasure, getting hunted by 4 people who we later find out are the priests of Upper Yard.
Really quick, I'm sorry to keep interrupting. 4 people and a giant dog.
Yes.
That dog is important.
Okay. 4 people and a giant dog.
He ate the stick fruit. He
Or does
didn't.
he?
I'm
Okay.
just...
No, the guy ate the stick fruit. That's why the dog was so excited and chasing it. That dog is actually Eneru, a.k.a. God. He just pretends that he's a canine. You're like, oh, it was him all along.
God was the friend she made along the way. Also, God has a giant laser beam that comes from the sky and kills the man. Also, God's name is Emeru. Did I say that right?
Eneru.
Eneru. Okay.
Or NL, depending on the translation you read, but we are not doing that. It's Eneru.
Well, and I
Okay.
believe Eneru is the official canon translation name in the manga and all that stuff, too.
Okay. So, Eneru. That obviously freaks Nami out. And so she goes back. She goes back to the island. And she makes it back there in time to see that they have apparently attracted the attention of the White Berets, who are now harassing the crew on the beach because they've gotten there illegally because they didn't pay the entrance fee that they were told was optional.
And the White Berets are like police, but they work for God. Do I have that correct?
That's
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, they're God's police force.
And it seems really strange that it seems like the Straw Hats just can't do anything right with according to these guys. They're there illegally, and then they try to explain that they didn't know, and then not knowing causes they were doing a 10th degree crime. Now they were doing a 9th degree crime. And then they're like, could you lessen the sentences? Oh, that's disagreeing with authority. No, you're at an 8th degree. And Usopp's like, we're just going to try to calm this down. They're like, calming it down is illegal.
Yeah, so it gets worse and worse and worse. And then Nami comes up on the jet ski, and they tell, hey, Nami, do you have 700...
7 million berries.
7 million berries? Because we have to pay a toll. And she's like, that's too much. They're ripping us off. And she's so upset. She forgets to stop the boat and runs into the commander, which now they've committed a 2nd degree crime. So now they are like in line to get a punishment. The rest of the White Berets, I'm trying to remember exactly how this works out, but they take the captain up to the house, and then they come back, and then there's a fight with Luffy and the other Straw Hats, and they beat them all up. Then they're getting ready to leave, and there's kind of a debate as to whether or not they should leave the Sky Ocean altogether, or if they should go to the Forbidden Island, which Luffy wants to do. Nami's planning on tricking him and just leaving the Sky Ocean. But that doesn't happen, because instead what happens is the boat is picked up and taken away by another lobster. This one is God's lobster.
And I think I could be wrong. I think the first lobster was the Express lobster, and I think this one is the Super Express lobster. I think it's even faster.
On the boat at the time is Nami, Chopper, Robin, and Zoro. That's it.
That's correct, yes.
Yes.
I was about to say, because I know there's 3 that are left behind. I couldn't remember. We have 7 crew members right now. Okay, yeah. Math checked out.
So they are being taken away by the lobster. And also the lobster is being chased by a bunch of fish who want to eat them.
Which means they can't jump ship is the relevance, yep.
Yes. And we hear back on shore from the two Skypeia people.
Pagaya and... Oh, no, now I forgot her name, Conus.
Oh, excuse me. Yes. Conus and her father, Pagaya.
Pagaya and Conus. I can't believe I forgot Pagaya's name. He's so important. He's literally in every scene with Conus, and so she's just Conus's dad.
So they are describing... Well, they're probably being taken as a sacrifice, but in reality, the punishment is not for them. They are hostages, and the punishment is for you. You are being issued a challenge to go get them.
Would you like to play a game, Straw Hat?
It should also be noted that while telling them this, they are both sweating constantly, as though trying to contain a secret, which kind of makes sense insofar as they're being basically issuing God's like punishment to them. So yeah. We know that they were trying to strategize how they were going to get there. Pagaya was giving them directions on how to get to the altar, and that's where we left.
Yeah, absolutely. It is quite interesting the way that it's set up because, like you said, Conus and Pagaya are kind of sweating profusely, but it starts even earlier than that. There's a scene where Sanji notices that Conus is like clenching her hands together in kind of a nervous way, and he doesn't say anything. And then Robin notices that as Conus is giving them helpful advice on how to, like, leave, she notices that, like, Conus, like, very briefly frowns or whatever. And so the different Straw Hats are noticing small little things, but not enough for them to say, like, I have a bad feeling about this. And, yeah, absolutely correct. Catherine, do you have anything to add that you remember from these episodes?
Not really. I feel like this was, the early setup stage of an arc where we're introduced to the conflict and we find a reason for the Straw Hats to be doing things. So I'm ready to move past the setup. I'm ready to get into the meat.
Absolutely.
Give me the episode's thickness.
Interesting. You are down with the thickness, is what you're telling me.
Oh, it's been a weird, long day of recording, folks.
Yes.
I like that there are speedy, fast lobsters that carry boats around. I wish those existed on the, what do they call it? The Blue Sea?
The Blue Sea, yes, correct.
Right. And I don't understand why, like, the people who live in the Blue Sea haven't harvested sea kings for that yet. Harnessed is the word I'm looking for. Because I feel like having a sea king pull your ship would be a lot more convenient than waiting for the wind to do it.
Do you have the power of God on your side if you're from the East Blue? No, you have to be from Skypeia in order to have God's good graces, and only through God's power do we have the lobsters.
Amen.
So here's my question for you, Joel.
Here's an answer for you, Curtis.
This isn't a question.
Right? I got my hopes up. I was like, oh boy, a chance to answer and get a gold star next to my name.
I have big doubts about Eneru actually being God.
Okay.
I think he is a false idol.
Okay. But how does someone show up and say, hey, I'm God, and have people believe that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Devil fruit.
Devil fruit, okay.
I think, if anything, it's the opposite, because he has a piece of the devil inside of him.
Luffy is a devil fruit. Nobody thinks he's God.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, everyone has different devil fruit powers.
Mm-hmm.
So he ate the Kami no Mi?
The God fruit.
Yes. He's not God. He's just God.
So it's a Zoan type devil fruit. It's one where you can transform, so you have a mortal form, you have a full God form, and then you have the halfway form. If you actually go full God, you just cease to exist. You become everything, and so that's like a last ditch effort. So Eneru exists only in the half God form.
No, I think this is more like a Big Brother scenario. I think Eneru is basically controlling this society. No, better. This is a Lord Ruler scenario right here. This is a guy pretending to be God who is powerful enough to pull it off, but not actually God, and forcing people to live under his tyrannical rule.
Perfect.
You know, I really, really like that. We'll have to see how it shapes up. It's gonna be a while, I think, before we figure out exactly what's going on, but then once we figure out what's going on, all the pieces fall into place.
Other reason.
Yeah.
Why I don't think Eneru is actually God.
Sure.
Eneru has Luffy's friends. Luffy's gonna go beat up the person who has his friends. I don't think One Piece wants to take look, we killed God.
What if it's a philosophical lesson for Luffy to learn? Because Luffy has always done whatever he wants, and this is when he finally realizes that God has a plan, and you can't just punch God, so just stand in line, do as you're told.
He's gonna get one of those throw pillows that's embroidered with, like, let go and let God, and he'll have the Serenity Prayer up on the Going Merry.
He will no longer fight his opponents, he will pray and just see what happens, like maybe Bellamy will just happen to collapse of cancer before he was able to steal the next Saruyama Alliance's gold.
Note, we at King of the What Now do not endorse praying that your enemies get cancer. That's no good.
What
We're
if
just being silly.
he approaches a whirlpool and he goes, Jesus, take the wheel. And then Jesus from the Blackbeard Pirates shows up. He's like, okay, I got this
We
one.
know he's a helmsman too, it works out so perfectly.
That's why he's the helmsman, because he has to take the wheel.
Oh, that's so funny. The way you said that, now I can only imagine Burgess with the Kool-Aid Man's voice. Yeah! As he grabs the wheel.
He's big enough. He could knock down walls and such and come through. Oh yeah! Okay, so we heard Catherine's opinion. You know, she felt that these were kind of set up, and she's ready for the actual action to start. Do you agree? Disagree? Somewhere in between?
Yeah, it's definitely set up. Some of it was interesting, but for the most part, not really. Like the dial stuff was interesting. Learning about Skypeia was kind of interesting. The white berets were frustrating. I'm curious what's going on, because it's like they're trying to set them up for some reason. And I don't exactly understand why. Is it just because they're outsiders? Is it because they're them specifically? I don't know. We'll find out, I suppose.
It's interesting that you should say that, because even knowing how the rest of the arc plays out, I'm trying to figure out the exact justification, and I don't know if I remember it. So either I'm not remembering a detail, or maybe it just doesn't get fully explained.
Yeah. This might be on the plan to talk about already. The gorillas.
Yes.
So these are not they're not hoo ha 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 ha. I guess gorillas don't make that sound. That's like fake monkey sound.
These aren't George in the Jungle gorillas. How about that? These are
yes
undercover. That's not the right word. What's the actual word?
Oh, they're like freedom fighters sort of things. Yeah, they are guerrilla tactic. They are guerrilla GEU gorillas. I think I spelled that right.
It's GEU or GUE. There's no O.
Yes, they're not the O gorillas. They're the other ones.
Y'all remember earlier when I said it's been a long, weird day? This is just more evidence of the longness and the weirdness of the day.
Absolutely.
So that we see the gorillas the first time when they get to like the lower level of the clouds.
We should specify. So you go above the sea. If you get to 7,000 meters, you get to something called the White Sea. There's basically clouds thick enough to sail on. And then you can go upwards to the White Sea, which is the true Sky Island, I guess. And it's 10,000 meters above sea level.
Yeah. So when they're on the White Sea, there's a gorilla that they see sink a ship in the distance, and then it comes after the Straw Hats, and they get saved by the Sky Knight?
Gonfall the Sky Knight, yes.
Yeah.
What a good name for a knight.
Yeah, he has an unusual naming scheme, and I want to say it's because he's a Sky Island person, but we don't meet someone else who has, like, the 2-word name, so maybe Gon is a title, but anyways, yes, Gonfall's the guy who gives him a whistle.
Yeah, and so we see that, and then we see the next time we see a gorilla is when the gorilla comes up and is trying to. It's unclear if he's trying to kill the other Blue Sea person who's on the Forbidden Island, or if he's trying to kill the 4 priests who are trying to kill the Forbidden person. And so what I'm trying to figure out is there's clearly some sort of like conflict going on.
Luffy shows up at an island where conflict already exists? Are you kidding me? What a way to shake up the formula.
So I think it's just one of two things. Either the gorillas work with Eneru and the priests.
Okay.
Or they work against them. My guess is that they work against them, and that when the guy shot at the
Blue Sea person and the 4 priests?
Yeah, he was going for the 4 priests.
Mm-hmm.
But they still don't like outsiders because they tried to take out the Straw Hats. So my guess is that Eneru, I'm going back to my original theory, Eneru is also an outsider who shouldn't be there. And he's kind of like put himself in charge. And the gorillas are trying to they're more traditional sky people, and they're trying to kick him
Stay out of our lands.
Yeah, they are more nativist, and maybe they're we serve the real god or something. I don't know. And then also puts into question who the heck is the Sky Knight? Is he just some freelance dude? He's clearly not a good citizen of Skypeia. Because he's helping out these random people down here. I don't know.
It seems like the Sky people are ordered to execute outsiders, and he instead saves them. So I agree with I agree with your conclusion, given the premises that you're highlighting.
Yes. So I'm curious to learn more. There's enough information that I could make multiple theories, but I can't really make a good theory yet.
You can't say this seems very likely given the evidence. Another thing that's really interesting, so they show up, they find out about 2 different types of clouds. That's very interesting. But Nami is riding around on this jet ski thing, also referred to as a wave rider, and she actually finds an island that is made out of soil with trees growing out of them. And she goes, whoa? And so that's what Upper Yard is. Upper Yard is physical concrete land. You could throw mud and dirt if you...
Well, dirt land.
I guess
not concrete land.
Yes, real solid land, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Not made out of clouds.
Right, but I feel comfortable letting you know that that's another mystery that is just another piece that we'll explore a little bit later.
That's just one piece?
It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Is that one the one piece, Joel?
No, it is not.
It's been in the sky this whole time.
That's why no one can find it. Let me ask you this. So you have a pretty solid theory. And when I say solid, I mean that you're pulling pieces of evidence. I can't be like, well, this disproves your theory. If the Sky people were to hate outsiders either because they're supposed to or because God tells them to, why do you think Conus and Pagaya are so nervous about helping the outside? Why are they sweating all the time when talking to the Straw Hats?
I think they know that Eneru is watching what they're doing, and they're trying to do what they're supposed to do, and that they're super afraid about the Straw Hats figuring out that they're leading them into a trap, because they're in a tough situation where they're well, we can't, we're just doing what we're supposed to, and I hope you don't find out.
Yes.
Can I ask you guys a real weird question?
It has to be extra weird. If it's just a moderate amount of weird, you're out.
Oof. Okay, I think it's weird enough. Did anybody else get big Watership Down vibes from the White Berets and the way they were now you're a level 7 criminal?
Oh, jeez. Now that you've said that, yes, immediately.
I don't think I ever read that book.
Are you kidding? We'll talk about that later.
Curtis moved to my high school. That's how we met. I think after that was required reading, the year after. So Watership Down, there's a bunch of different rabbit societies, and they're all metaphors for different type of government. And so there's one that's complete authoritarianism, and there's one that is more socialism and stuff, but they're all taken to the logical extreme.
They're all bad, and the moral of the book at the end is that you should live alone in the woods with your family, because government sucks.
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's one society that they go to that seems perfect. The main character's looking for a society they can live at because something bad happened to the previous one that they had originally lived at. And there's one society that seems really good and really nice, and everyone's really friendly, and wow, that's incredible. And then one of the people that they've met wanders outside of the Warren and never comes back. And these outsiders are like, hey, what happened to Fred? And the people are like, oh, who's Fred? And they're like, you know Fred. Fred was the guy who left last night. And they're like, no one leaves the Warren. And it turns out that maybe there is people getting killed, and they're not allowed to talk about it because there's some ruler guy who's like, nope, not allowed to talk about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Catherine said, it feels like a pretty strong allegory or whatever. I find it interesting that should God be controlling these people, should Eneru, I should say, be controlling these people, the Berets are cartoonishly villain in the way that they're Wapple and Buggy levels of villainous with oh, you sneezed, that's a level 3! And you're like, sneezing isn't illegal, what are you talking about? And then Cronus and Pagaya are more, they're not cartoonishly, they seem more conflicted, they seem like good people who are, maybe there's some kind of gun, metaphorical or otherwise, against their head.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm curious because this is the first big instance of religion we've had in One Piece. Like,
I love that.
We saw Kuma carrying the Bible, but other than that, we haven't encountered anybody until now who has like a religion and a set god. Joel, you had a thought you were going to share.
Well, these episodes are set up, and I will agree with both of you. This is not the most exciting part of the Skypeia arc. Especially, I think the build-up to the Sky Island was so good that now that we're here, it's kind of like, oh, everything's just being explained. That's, not as cool. I find it interesting that we get basically confirmation throughout this arc. We haven't quite seen, Nami and Usopp respond to the Eneru calling himself God and all this other stuff, but we definitely have Luffy going, oh, is there a god? That's okay, I never really thought about it. You're like, all right, Luffy, confirmed agnostic, he doesn't care. And then Zoro goes, I just have never seen evidence of him. If you want to believe what you want to believe, then that's fine, but I myself don't. Okay, we have confirmed atheism from Zoro in terms of one true god. I kind of like that. I like seeing their personal philosophies, and I also like, as a huge One Piece nerd, taking the views they express in this saga specifically when they're directly asked about a god, and then applying that to other parts of the series. Like, Luffy doesn't seem to care about a god, and Zoro, definitely doesn't believe, and they're the two that I would argue are the most likely to take matters into their own hand, because there's not a divine being to watch over them or to guide them, they have to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their personal religious beliefs are very in line with their philosophies in general.
Mm-hmm. Which should make absolutely, like, given Usopp's characteristic when it comes to, like, oh, there's a giant monster, run away. Oh, there's a guy who can do something weird with his devil fruits, run away. Oh, there's a guy who can run away. It should not surprise you at all how ready he is to face someone who calls himself God, who appears to be ruling with an iron fist, and Usopp doesn't want any of it. It's so strange. I also thought it was weird that as the token coward character on the crew, he was the first to try to jump into the White Sea and swim, and he's like, oh, it's fine, ocean is ocean. That is a Zoro thing to say. That is not an Usopp thing to say. I expected Usopp to be like, I'm not going out there, who knows how it's gonna...
That's the most Warrior of the Sea thing he's done so far.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he even, like, considered it. Once they saved him, he was freaking out about, oh, the Sky Island is so scary. So maybe the trick for Usopp is just not think about it. Just go and try and do it. That's why Luffy's so fearless.
I was about to say, that's why Luffy is so successful. The answer to being a brave warrior of the sea is to be very stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Just do the first thing you think of without any...
Yep. Or just be a cocky son of a gun. Zoro, I think, has the same level of fearlessness, and I think it's because his mentality is, if something gets in my way, I'll just cut it down. But Zoro, what if it's something that you can't cut? I will learn to cut the uncuttable, damn it!
A swordsman can cut what he wants to cut. Why couldn't he cut the lobster?
Well, he started.
He was making progress, I think.
Was he?
Yeah. No, sorry.
This shell started to crack.
Okay. I was gonna say... From where I was sitting, I thought he couldn't cut it at all. And, like, what lobster is harder than steel?
I think it took him a little longer to cut it than it maybe should have. And then by the time he started doing real damage, Robin was like, there are skyfish back there. And Zoro was like, yeah, okay. Even though they're basically balloon animals that he could cut down at a moment's notice. Sanji took out, it was Sanji or Luffy, one of them took out a thing, and it literally popped like a balloon after it was defeated.
That was cool.
I like that. I like that Oda thought about what the biology of creatures that live in the sky would be like. I'm also glad that they have a source of food, because if the Sky Islanders were eating each other, might explain why they don't like outsiders, because you have to demonize the things that you're going to eat.
So Joel.
Yes.
I think things that live in the sky, they're called birds.
Birds don't live in the sky.
They
make nests in trees and in holes and bushes and things.
But they also live in the sky.
No, they fly in the sky. You drive on a road. Would you say you live on the road?
I say I live on the earth.
But you I think you know what I'm saying here.
In this episode,
I am alive on the street. So at that moment, I am alive on the street.
In this episode of Smartass versus pedant. A pedant? Okay, thank you. I know pedantic, but I don't know. Okay. Here's a thought. We find out about dials and how cool they are. You have dials that can capture wind currents and then release them later, like a little fan. You have heat dials that you can use for cooking.
Tone.
What?
Tone dials that you can capture screams!
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that Enaru's control of the people has to do with dials? Do you think that there's like a Suicide Squad style dial around Cronus' neck, or like a surveillance camera dial in the corner of the room?
I mean, the surveillance stuff wouldn't surprise me if there were like surveillance dials around. I would assume that, and then probably whatever the devil fruit power that Enaru has allows him to strike anywhere, like where like he can strike from a distance, and so keeping an eye on you, like if he sees you do something wrong, he can like, oh, all right.
Okay, so his devil fruit is extremely powerful, but he's found a way to extend its ability even farther. Kind of like how Crocodile chose to fight in the desert. On its own, his fruit was powerful, but he found a way to take it even further beyond.
What's like, could you imagine if Robin was in like the command center for like a large surveillance thing? She could put body parts wherever she wanted, because she could see everywhere.
She could put her body parts anywhere she wanted, and then use explosives in order to scatter the enemy's body parts wherever she wanted.
Can she make a whole body?
Can she?
I don't know. We know that she can create multiple arms. She has 2 arms. She can make, like 20 arms elsewhere. We saw her make extra eyes, but can she make multiple eyes and multiple arms at the same time? Have we seen her make multiple legs at the same time? We haven't seen that so far, and we don't really see her get creative with her powers anytime soon.
Okay.
I expect that if she could do something like that, then maybe that's how she would have taken down Crocodile. Fighting a guy who's probably going to kill you if you mess up. Probably best to send into your Shadow Clone Jutsu. Reference joke. One thing I do want to point out, I'm not sure that either of you interacted with Dragon Ball Z enough to notice this. In Dragon Ball Z, when Goku dies, he has to walk along something called, I think it's Snake Way, and it is basically a 1,000,000-mile-long snake that goes from one place to another place. I don't remember the specifics. The trail they used to go from the White Sea to the White Sea looked exactly like that dragon, and I'm positive it's a reference. I don't know if Dragon Ball got it from real Japanese mythology. As an otaku, as a weeb, the only place that I've seen it was in Dragon Ball Z, and as soon as I saw it in One Piece, I went, yeah, One Piece is influenced by Dragon Ball. It would not surprise me if that's kind of what they're going for, especially since they're in heaven. Perfect place to put it.
We already know that Oda took a lot of inspiration from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z when he started One Piece, and so I wouldn't be surprised if it were in there as an homage. All. I also wouldn't be surprised if both came from some other thing in Japanese culture. When you first saw the road and you were like, that's a reference, I thought you were going to say to Rainbow Road from Mario Kart. So, are you ready for a smartass moment?
Go ahead.
We've heard of Dragon Ball Z, but what happened to Dragon Ball Y?
The Dragon Ball Y is money. That's always why you have Dragon Ball merchandise. That's why Super came around.
But
and Dragon Ball A, you would just have to go to Canada, and someone's like, "You want to watch some anime?" And you're like, "Dragon Ball A? Is that racist against Canadians? I don't mean to be offensive.
Canadian is not a race, so you're fine."
Is
it nationalist against Canadians?
No,
is it stereotypical?
I think people know enough to make fun of their own accents, like Washingtonians who say "beg" instead of "bag."
Beg. Okay. I think, is there anything? Okay, so the dial thing makes sense, right? I pitched that idea and you went, "Yeah, I think that makes sense." What if he had eaten the eye fruit? And it was able to make eyes appear. It's not the same as Robin's, which can make everything bloom like flowers. Maybe it would be different types of eyes. So you would have heat vision, he would have X-ray vision, and you would have very far away vision. Supervision? Is that what they call it for Superman? I think it is.
I think so. Would you call it the Tripo fruit? I guess Trippo is holes, but...
Yeah, the holes fruit. No. That's the stuff of nightmares. Could you imagine, like, anything you touch, you can just, like, puncture holes in it? And then, like, the longer you touch, the wider the eventual hole can appear?
If you get really good, you can start punching holes in space-time.
Oh, my God.
Just go, put your hand out and...
Would you like to hear a theory that there's absolutely no basis for whatsoever, but is very popular in One Piece? All right, I'm going to tell this to Catherine and Curtis. If you don't want to hear it, too bad. You should have spoken up. Many people believed, I won't tell you if it's been disproven, that Shanks ate the time fruit, and that's why he was so strong when he shows up, because, like, he can literally control space and time. I don't think there's any evidence for it, other than, we know Shanks is strong. What's the strongest fruit you can imagine? I know. The God fruit has already been eaten, and he just hadn't made his way up to Sky Island yet.
Imagine Shanks as a time wizard. I'm talking pointy hat. I'm talking staff with a clock at the end of it.
No, all I can imagine now is imagine Shanks as a LARPer. And actually, kind of, yeah, I can see that. That's why he became a pirate, because LARPing was outlawed in his hometown, and the only one who are allowed to go against the rule of the government are the pirates.
I could see him whacking his friends with his foam sword and being like, this is fun! We're having fun! Play with me!
Lucky we're sitting there eating and be like, stop hitting me! You know, speaking of things like opening holes in the space-time continuum and time travel and all that other stuff, I think it's time to go to our world-famous ad segment.
Boop, boop-a-doop, boop. Ad segment?
No, okay.
No, that's our final
You changed the rules!
I'm just messing around.
No.
I'm just seeing. Okay, let's go to
We're
the ad segment. Leave me alone. Let's go to the ad segment.
All right. So you have all had soup sometimes in your life, I assume. If you're listening to this and you've lived a soupless life, go out and try it. Different types of soups. The product that we're selling today is Infinity Soup. It's all the taste of soup to the power of infinity. If you order right now, you can get an infinite lifetime supply of infinite soup for just an infinite amount of dollars. It's incredible. It's amazing they have bent the space-time continuum in order to bring you this brilliant, brilliant product.
And Joel, from math, we know that infinite amount of dollars is the same as no dollars, so it's basically free.
That's true. Once you get out the whiteboard and you really start calculating it, you start to realize that it all adds up if you really think about it, because once you start approaching infinity, that's it. It all gets absorbed into the same infinity.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, if there were an infinite amount of dollars out there, the value of each dollar would be infinitely small. It's basically zero, which means an infinite amount of dollars would be worthless.
I don't know if you're purposefully quoting Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but I dig your reference joke. And if you weren't, that's a reference. I will show you. It's a single chapter. It's my favorite chapter in all of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh.
What? Okay.
I thought I came up with something really cool there on my own. Damn it.
Yeah, that's the problem with trying to come up with smart thoughts, is there are so many people who have had smart thoughts before.
No, I'm the only smart person. It's just me.
Before me, intelligence didn't exist. We were but animals.
You know what my dad would say. Boop, boop, a doop. I don't know.
Boop, boop, a doop. Why don't you try our infinite soup? Boop, boop, a doop. It comes in all sorts of flavors. How many flavors? All of the flavors. Boop,
Infinite flavors.
Infinite flavors. Soup. Boop, boop, a doop. Boop, boop. Order now while supplies last, which will be infinitely, forever. You will never have to worry about supplies lasting.
Babe, that jingle was incredible. You missed your calling going into podcasting. You should have gone into jingle writing.
Yeah, I mean, both of them suit my physical appearance, both podcasting and jingle writing. Anything that allows me to not be out in society, I bite a lot, and so it's better to just kind of keep me behind closed doors.
It's true, people. We wear armor whenever we podcast, and like when Joel's not
stopped poking him, Curtis, he'd stop biting you.
That is wonderful. I think that we are starting to venture away from the One Piece territory and the Infinite Soup territory, so we're gonna just seamlessly sail right back into the One Piece content.
That was a
Which
wonderful
One Piece
segue.
character is most likely to bite God?
Luffy.
Chopper.
Yeah.
Accidentally.
Okay.
But he would bite.
Well, it depends on what kind of god. If he was like a fluffy god, because Chopper is all about the sweets.
Mhm.
So if God was like a cloud-like shape, I could see Chopper trying it. But if it was more physical,
If
less
it was made of
ethereal,
meat.
yeah. Well, but like, okay, so I said that we're gonna get a little bit more about the different crew members' look on God, but Luffy and Zoro are kind of the only two who outrightly are like, we're gonna just rebel against it like immediately. Sanji eventually gets there with, oh, God's attacking Nami, so I'm gonna stick up for her. But I think Usopp, Chopper, and Usopp, Chopper, and Nami would be too afraid of God, and also Nami is a refined woman who does not bite. Robin would see no purpose to it. And out of Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy is the only one who is, like, orally fixated, who's just like, I'm gonna put this in my mouth, because he's a child. He's a child trapped in a 19-year-old rubber body. 17-year-old rubber body. Who's 19? Sanji and Zoro are 19, that's what I was getting mixed up there. How did you like the man-made cloud type of thing? And how did you like the... Did they actually name their attacks of the White Beret people when they created, like, the Milky Stream? How'd you like those?
I don't know, it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Milky Stream was weird because it just came from the arrows.
Yeah. Well, so, spoiler alert, they actually come from, they have dials that store a certain amount of them, and they put the dials on the arrows.
Okay.
The Sky Island Saga is wonderful because it introduces, like, a whole new dimension of fighting abilities and tactical thinking that you just can't get on land.
I like the fact that the dials seem to mostly follow the same basic logic, that they store something and then release it later.
Yes.
My assumption is, like, even the heating ones probably store heat somehow when they're not in use. But, like, yeah, even, like, you know, that's the way the voice ones work. It's kind of like you could make an argument for the vision ones. Yeah,
exactly. Like there's the lamp ones. There's the I think they'll either show this or you will learn about it. Like water ones too, that are basically like faucets or hoses type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like it in that they are basically magic. It kind of makes sense that shells can store things, but it doesn't make sense that you would be able to transport the vision from a vision dial to something else. It's just realistic enough. It's just hard magic, as Brandon Sanderson would call it. It has enough rules that you can go, okay, I can now extrapolate from this. I can now assume that there is a frost dial, and I can create my own OC who shoots ice arrows. But it's not so specific that you can't do something like that.
I'm also very confused how they survive.
The dials?
No, the people. Because one, where's their source of water?
Don't think about it. Okay, go on.
I understand they're sea creatures, but like to get like a full like all the nutrients you need, like you'd have to have some sort of vegetation somewhere, and it's like I don't know. There's all kinds of things that like
Just put your engineering brain away. Take your disbelief and suspend it for just a second.
Should I suspend it in some broth?
Yeah,
some liquid?
Some infinite broth. There you go.
It's engineering brain soup.
The other thing that I really, really enjoy from these episodes, and if you guys have some thoughts, feel free to add, but I love that Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji try to protect the ship when they first arrive. And then one of the Gonfall, I think, goes, yeah, it's going to be harder for you to fight. And they're like, oh, it's kind of hard to breathe. And then they just get over it. Luffy's just like, I'm fine now. And Gonfall's like, that's not how it worked. But they are fine. They're perfectly...
Yeah.
They are called the Monster Trio for a reason.
It does not seem to hamper anybody at this point, for some reason.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro just being able to quote-unquote get over it. They're referred to as the Monster Trio. They're the ones who have, like, lived their entire lives basically in the wilderness. Like, they'd be fine if they're surrounded by, like, tigers and stuff. I expected Nami or Robin to be nerfed, or Chopper or Usopp to be nerfed because they weren't the most physically impressive to begin with. Mm-hmm. But it's just sort of they just adapt to it really quick, and I think that's for brevity. I don't think that Oda wanted 40 chapters where they were not fighting at their best, and he didn't want to just say, like, oh yeah, of course they can fight just normal up there. You have to acknowledge, no, of course the air would be thinner.
Uh-huh.
Catherine, did you have a particularly favorite moment from these episodes?
No, they were all pretty good. I thought Luffy's reaction to Nami being really good at the waiver was interesting.
He's so angry.
He's never been that petulant before. He's usually just like, cool, look at this cool thing. But he was so mad that he couldn't do it and Nami could.
Luffy's entire life philosophy, and it just clicked, is about partying. And so far, we have never seen him want to do something fun and have anyone stand in his way. But for the Wave Rider, it is not something that he can do on his own that is immediately fun. Navigating is not fun in itself. It does take you to new islands, but he's comfortable being like, I'll let Nami navigate until we get to the fun place, then I'll do fun stuff. He doesn't need to be able to cook. He has Sanji for that. But anything he wants to do with his own two hands that's fun, why should anyone else be good at that? He should be good at it. He should be allowed to have as much fun as he wants, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Can we also agree that we can put Conus in the entry for amazing side girl characters?
She's so cute. Oh man, and her intro when she's playing the harp and Sanji goes, that's not a woman, that's an angel.
Mm-hmm. And it turns out they have angels in One Piece. When I was watching this show with you, Catherine, and you were going through it, we got to these episodes, I was like, hey, angels, and Luffy's probably gonna punch God, and someone else responded with, isn't that usually later in most anime series? Yes, it is, but One Piece gets it out of the way. There are angels, there is a god, he might be punchable. We don't know how his powers work yet.
I remember I asked Joel like 1,000,000 times, why do these people have wings? Do they ever explain why they have wings? Why? Why do they have wings? And Joel was like, because it's One Piece. They have wings, that's it.
If there is an explanation, we haven't gotten it. I get the impression that they've been up in the Sky Islands for so long that it just naturally...
It just doesn't matter. It's just part of... But that was my first reaction to angels in One Piece was, but wait, why do they have wings? And their wings are too tiny. Shouldn't they not be able to fly? Oh, but they fly anyway, like bees. That's a myth about bees.
Do they,
Bees don't fly. That's a myth.
They're rocket-powered. Bees just fly around on their little tiny mechanical
No,
turrets.
the world moves around them.
There you go.
If only. We might have more bees if that were the case. Let's be sad.
But anyways, I find it interesting that they don't use their wings to fly. Like Catherine pointed out, they're too small, and so I wonder if at one point they kind of flew, and then eventually they somehow expanded the Sky Island territory to the point where they didn't have to fly anymore, and now, over time, they've gotten smaller and smaller. Maybe they kill birds and just put the wings on their back, but they're just decorative.
They're not really their wings.
Yeah, exactly. You're not born with wings. You have to earn it on your 10th, after the 10th anniversary of your birth.
They are special Shinigami backpacks that you get, and then eventually when you've killed enough people, you grow your own. This is a reference to another anime that I like very much. I apologize.
But yeah, I think we're all pretty content with these episodes. I think it sets up some really interesting stuff. I guess here's a question that's really dumb, and I don't think you're going to be able to answer it, Curtis. It's an opinion piece. Which of those priests stood out the most to you in terms of physical design? There was the round boy with the glasses named Satori, who talks a little bit like Mickey Mouse, in my opinion. Like, oh! There's the guy with the dog. There's the guy who looked like a pilot who was flying on the bird. And then there was the really tall guy with, like, the kind of weird spiky hair. Did any of them stand out to you?
I didn't get enough time to really look at them, so not really.
Okay. I'm also going to give you a sneak peek of something that's going to happen on the next episode of the podcast, which, by the way, folks at home, we will be covering 4 episodes next week, 158, 159, 160, and 161. But I will spoil one very small detail about these 4 priests. They each have their own trial. And so I'm going to throw out the names, and you're going to have to tell me which trial you think sounds like the one you would tackle if you were given... I think they're actually called ordeals, but point is, you're going to go in blind, you're going to pick one, and then when we've seen all 4 of the ordeals, we will revisit and see if you'll change your mind about which one you like.
Really quick, you didn't ask me my favorite visual priest. It's Shura. I like his aviator hat and his weird mustache.
Yeah, Shura's the guy who's on the bird who attacks with a lance. Gadatsu is the guy with the weird hair. Is it Shirahoshi? Nope, that's not right. Satori is the ball person, the round one. And the last one is like Om. That's right. I knew it was a one syllable.
I may or may not have the wiki entry open right now.
Oh, okay. So, Curtis and Catherine, although your answer will be colored by foreknowledge, probably. So we'll let Curtis answer first, then you. Which of these 4 trials or ordeals would you face if you were being judged by God for some reason? The trial of strings? The trial of orbs? The trial of iron? Or the trial of swamp?
Strings.
Okay. What do you expect that to be, by the way? I just what's the first thing that comes to mind? Do they attach a string to you and cats attack you and you have to get away from the cats?
They give you string and you do that trick where you make things,
like
designs with your hand. Yeah, and then you make like little Eiffel Tower. And if you can make the Eiffel Tower, then they'll let you go.
They wrap the strings around you and then you have to untie yourself. All right, and Catherine, keeping in mind, viewers, that she probably knows what these trials correspond to.
I was also going to pick the trial of strings, just because that sounds like the easiest one. Like, the trial of iron sounds dangerous. That sounds like swords are involved. And the trial of swamp sounds like there'd be wet, gross stuff and monsters.
Do you think that there might be rodents of a particular size, like of unusual size?
Maybe,
in the trial of swamp?
ROUSs, I don't think those exist.
And then a trial of spheres?
Trial of spheres, that was my backup. That was my, either the strings or the spheres. And I imagine the spheres being like you're in a human-sized hamster ball and you're just running into other balls. Oh my god,
that'd be so good. You have to race other people, and that's pretty good.
What if it's just a ball pit? I want to change.
Like thousands of balls, and you're inside one, and you have to push through the others.
What if they challenge you to a game of sports ball? And, okay, so I know that that's a common nerd thing to say. Oh, sports ball, all sports are the same. Whoever is giving you the trial, whoever's the proctor, can pick any sport that involves a ball. So they couldn't do hockey, that's a puck. But it could be soccer, it could be basketball, it could be football, that sort of thing.
It could be cricket.
Absolutely. For myself, if I were playing a video game, definitely Trial of Iron, because like you guys said, it sounds like it'd be really dangerous. If I had to do one, no way in heck. There's no way. Even if I didn't know what the trials were, that sounds the most dangerous. Probably ball or string. Like there's obvious answers here.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
I think that's been your final thought.
Outro goes here! So ends the next leg of the King of the What Now adventure. We're sad to see you go, but we'll be here next week. If you crave some social interaction with us in the meantime, you can find us on all sorts of different media. We have Gmail, Patreon, and Tumblr. All of those are King of the What Pod. King of the What Pod at gmail.com, patreon.com/KingOfTheWhatPod. KingOfTheWhatPod.tumblr.com. Our Twitter handlers are a little bit different. You can reach me at KOTWN_pod.
And you can contact me, Curtis, at Pirate Co-host.
Also, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen. Not only will this help others find the podcast, but your constructive feedback will help us improve the show as we go.
Thanks so much for giving us a listen. Until next time, follow your dreams and protect your treasure.
Remember, it doesn't need to be literal treasure.